Hey, Holy Girls, welcome back to another episode of Holy Girl Talk, the space where we take scripture, purpose, self discovery, and all the messy parts of being a modern woman, and we turn it into conversations that feel honest, empowering, and actually transformative. If you're new here, welcome to the community where we don't shrink, we don't hide, and we definitely don't play small. And if you've been here for a while, girl, you already know this is where your faith grows up. This is where you stop apologizing for being gifted. This is where you stop treating your purpose like a side project. And before we even dive in, go ahead and share this episode with a friend who you know is sitting on something, a dream, a skill, an idea, a calling, but hasn't moved yet. Because today we're talking about the parable that will not let you stay hidden. The parable of the talents is one of Jesus' most activating, no nonsense teachings. It is not gentle. It is not subtle. It is Jesus looking straight at you and saying, I put something in your hands, now do something with it. This parable hits every holy girl who's ever said, I'm scared, I'm not ready, what if I fail, or maybe later. It speaks directly to the woman with big dreams but small confidence, to the woman who feels called but unprepared, to the woman who knows she has gifts but keeps burying them under fear, procrastination, comparison, and perfectionism. This story reminds us that God does not give gifts randomly. He doesn't place purpose in your hands as decoration. He doesn't whisper vision just for you to journal it and never move. God entrusts gifts with intention. He places talents in you based on your ability, not the version of you that you pretend you are, but the real you that He knows intimately, deeply, fully. And if He puts something in you, it is because He already knows you are capable of growing it, multiplying it, and becoming the woman He designed you to be. Today's episode is about stewardship, not in the boring churchy sense, but the holy, powerful, life-changing truth that you are responsible for what God placed inside you. This episode is going to challenge you, encourage you, lovingly expose you, and hopefully wake up the part of you that has been quiet for too long, because a lot of us aren't lacking opportunity, we're lacking courage. We aren't lacking talent, we're lacking trust. We aren't lacking purpose, we're lacking movement. So get comfortable, open your heart, and let's talk about the gifts you've been given, the fears you've been hiding behind, and the life you were always meant to build. When Jesus begins this story, He introduces a master who is preparing to leave for a long journey. But before he goes, He calls 3 servants and places something valuable in each of their hands. Not random coins, not leftovers, not scraps. Talents. And in the biblical world, a talent wasn't pocket change, it was the equivalent of years' worth of wages. It represented weight, responsibility, opportunity, and trust. In other words, the master wasn't giving them something small, he was giving them something significant. And Jesus is showing us something essential about God's character. God is a giver. He entrusts His daughters with purpose, with gifts, with resources, with ideas, with strength, with opportunities, with capacity. He places things in your hands because He believes in what you are capable of carrying. This is so important to understand. When God gives you a gift, it is never accidental. When He calls you to something, it is never random. When He puts a dream in your spirit, it is never a mistake. God gives according to ability, not according to insecurity, fear, or self-doubt. Each servant received a different amount, but each received something valuable. This destroys the comparison game so many holy girls fall into. Your gift is not supposed to look like someone else's. Your assignment is not supposed to match theirs. God gave you what you need for the life you are called to live. Comparison is the quickest way to bury your talent before you even begin. But here's the emotional weight of this moment. Being entrusted with something holy can feel overwhelming. Sometimes the very thing God calls you to do is the thing you feel least prepared for. The size of the assignment can make you question the size of your ability. You might feel pressure, vulnerability, excitement, or fear all at once. Being entrusted by God is an honor, but it also requires courage. It requires responsibility. It requires stepping into a version of yourself you haven't fully become yet. Jesus introduces this scene to show you God has already given you something. He has already placed something in your hands. The question is not, do I have a gift? The question is, what am I doing with the gift God trusted me with? This parable is an invitation to stop seeing yourself as empty-handed and start recognizing the value God already deposited inside you. The first 2 servants in Jesus' story are the blueprint for what it looks like to steward your gifts with purpose. Scripture says something so simple but so powerful about them. They went at once and put their talents to work. They didn't hesitate, they didn't overthink, they didn't wait for perfect conditions, they didn't talk themselves out of it, they didn't say, I'll start when I feel ready, they didn't say, what if I fail? They simply moved, and the movement created multiplication. This is the mindset of a woman who knows her purpose. She doesn't wait for her confidence to magically appear. She builds confidence through action. She doesn't waste time comparing her talent to someone else's. She invests in what she already has. She doesn't sit in fear, procrastination, or perfectionism. She realizes that growth happens through participation, not paralysis. These servants understood a spiritual truth many of us forget. God blesses what you move, not what you bury. Their diligence shows us that fruitfulness is not random, it's intentional. Talent is the starting point, but stewardship is the engine. These servants teach us that purpose is not fulfilled through wishing, dreaming, or journaling alone. It is fulfilled through small, consistent steps, through discipline, through showing up again and again, through using what God already placed in your hands, even when it still feels unfamiliar. And notice something profound. Neither of them said, but she has more than me. They didn't look at the girl next to them. They didn't compare their portion. They didn't minimize their assignment. They weren't distracted by someone else's capacity. They were focused on their own. That's why they multiplied. Comparison kills creativity. Comparison steals momentum. Comparison convinces you that what God gave you isn't enough. But these women, as we're imagining them through this lens, show us that multiplication begins where comparison ends. Their faithfulness created capacity. By using what they had, they made room for more. They unlocked the next level of their calling, not by waiting for a promotion, but by stewarding their current gift well. This is God's pattern. He expands what you're willing to activate. He increases what you're willing to invest. He multiplies what you're willing to move. These servants remind every holy girl listening, you do not need more to begin. You need movement. You need trust. You need to act. Then we get to the third servant, the one who buried her talent. And if we're being honest, she might be the most relatable character in this entire parable because she didn't lose her gift. She didn't waste it recklessly. She didn't spend it irresponsibly. She hid it. She protected it so intensely that she never used it. And her reasoning? Fear. Pure, paralyzing, deeply human fear. She literally says, I was afraid. Afraid of failing. Afraid of not being good enough. Afraid of disappointing the master. Afraid of taking a risk and watching it go wrong. Afraid that what she had wasn't significant enough to make a difference. Afraid of being judged, criticized, or exposed. Fear convinced her that burying her gift was safer than trying. And how many holy girls know exactly what that feels like? You feel called, but you're scared. You feel gifted, but you downplay it. You feel something stirring inside you, but you silence it. You dream, but you hesitate. You plan, but you never launch. Not because you don't care, but because you're terrified of the possibility that it won't work. Fear feels protective, but it's deceptive. It dresses itself up like wisdom when it's actually avoidance. It pretends to keep you safe when it's actually keeping you small. It whispers, don't try, so you never have to risk being disappointed. It convinces you that hiding is better than failing, but hiding is failing in slow motion. This servant wasn't lazy. She was overwhelmed. She wasn't ungrateful. She was intimidated. She wasn't incapable. She was uncertain. And Jesus includes her in the story because he wants you to see the danger of letting fear manage your calling. Fear leads to procrastination. Fear leads to perfectionism. Fear leads to self-sabotage. Fear leads to delay until the opportunity dies. Fear leads you to believe that your gift is a burden rather than a blessing. What's haunting about this part of the parable is that her talent didn't disappear. Her use of it did. Her potential stayed locked inside her because she was too afraid to activate it. This is what happens to so many daughters of God. The gift is still there. The calling is still there. The anointing is still there, but fear buries it alive. The third servant is not a villain. She is a mirror. She reveals the side of us that knows we're capable of more but keeps choosing comfort instead of courage. When the master returns and evaluates the servants, his response to the third servant hits hard, not because he's harsh, but because he's honest. He isn't angry that she didn't produce the same results as the others. He isn't upset that she didn't create something massive. He isn't comparing her to anyone. What he calls out is the one thing that stunted her purpose. She did nothing. She buried what she was meant to build. She hid what she was meant to steward. She protected what she was meant to multiply. And this is where the emotional truth of the parable becomes real. Burying your gifts doesn't keep you safe, it keeps you stuck. When you refuse to use what God gave you, you don't just lose momentum, you lose confidence, you lose opportunities, you lose the chance to grow into the woman you were designed to be. Buried gifts create spiritual frustration, that nagging feeling that you're capable of more but not stepping into it. The regret of knowing you didn't even try. The Master's words reveal something we don't like to admit. Unused potential has consequences, not punishment, consequences. When you don't use your creativity, it shrinks. When you don't pursue your purpose, it becomes harder to hear God's voice. When you don't take steps of faith, your faith weakens. When you bury your calling, it stops feeling alive inside you. You don't lose the gift, you lose the sensitivity to it. Many holy girls think choosing safety is neutral, that if they don't move, nothing will happen. But Jesus shows that inaction is not neutral. Inaction is loss. Inaction is decline. Inaction is slowly surrendering your future to fear. So many women believe they're protecting themselves by staying small when really they're forfeiting the life they were meant to live. The Master also reveals a deeper truth. God will not force you to use what He gave you. He will entrust you, equip you, empower you, but He will not override your free will. Purpose requires participation. Calling requires cooperation. You have to choose to partner with God. He won't drag you into destiny if you insist on hiding from it. What's heartbreaking is that the third servant could have done anything with her talent. Anything would have been better than nothing. And that's the beauty of God. He doesn't expect perfection, He expects effort. He expects willingness. He expects movement. The smallest obedience is still obedience. The consequence of buried potential isn't that God is disappointed in you, it's that you miss what could have been yours. The reward you never experienced, the opportunities you never saw, the growth you never felt, the version of yourself you never got to meet. When the Master turns to the first two servants, his words are some of the most affirming, celebratory, purpose-filled lines Jesus ever teaches. Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a little, I will set you over much. And this moment reveals a spiritual principle that every holy girl needs to tattoo on her heart. Faithfulness creates capacity. God expands what you're willing to steward. He increases what you're willing to use. Promotion follows participation. These two servants didn't become more capable after multiplying their talents. They were entrusted with more because they stepped into what they already had. They didn't wait for bigger opportunities to show up. They didn't wait for perfect conditions. They didn't wait to feel fully confident or spiritually qualified. They simply honored the portion they were given, and in doing that, their capacity grew. This is why some women seem to continually evolve, elevate, expand, and break ceilings, not because they're the most talented, but because they're faithful. They show up when it's unglamorous. They move when it's uncomfortable. They practice when no one applauds. They steward their gifts even when the audience is small. They don't wait for visibility to validate their purpose. They let obedience be enough. And God responds to that. God enlarges what you activate. God strengthens what you stretch. God multiplies what you move. God pours into hands that are open and willing, not buried and closed. Jesus is teaching us that capacity is not a personality trait. It's a result of stewardship. The more you use your gift, the more skill you develop. The more you step into your calling, the more clarity you gain. The more you trust God with the little, the more He entrusts you with the big. Faithfulness is the bridge between where you are and where you are meant to be. This section of the parable also reveals something deeply comforting. God celebrates effort. He affirms growth. He notices obedience even when no one else does. The Master's joy is not about how much they produced. It's about the posture of their hearts. They tried. They invested. They participated. They trusted. They didn't hide. And because of that, they stepped into more opportunity, more influence, more responsibility, more authority, more joy, more purpose. So many holy girls say they want more, but more is not given to those who bury what they already have. More is given to those who steward what's in their hands now. God doesn't reward perfection, He rewards faithfulness. Jesus wasn't just talking about money in this parable. The talents symbolize anything God places in your hands, anything He expects you to use, grow, and steward with intention. And for modern women, talents show up in ways that are often subtle, overlooked, or underestimated. A talent might be your creativity, the ideas that flow through you effortlessly, but you never take seriously because they feel too small. A talent might be your wisdom, the way you just know things, the way people come to you for clarity, the way your insight could change a room if you stop second guessing yourself. A talent might be your communication, your voice, your writing, your ability to connect, encourage, or teach. A talent might be the way you lead, the way you organize, the way you bring peace, the way you show compassion, the way you make people feel safe and understood. Talents also show up as resources. Your time, your money, your platform, your relationships, your opportunities. Many holy girls are praying for new blessings while ignoring the ones already sitting in their hands. God isn't asking you to wait for a bigger stage, He's asking you to steward the one you're standing on right now. He's not asking you to launch the perfect business, He's asking you to take the next small step. He's not asking you to have millions, He's asking you to budget well, give generously, and use what you have wisely. Stewardship is not about size, it's about sincerity. And then there are the internal talents, the emotional and spiritual gifts, your resilience, your empathy, your discernment, your ability to forgive, your boldness, your intuition, your story, your healing journey. So many women bury these by minimizing them. You tell yourself your story isn't powerful enough to help someone. Your skill isn't developed enough to be used. Your idea isn't good enough to launch. Your dream isn't realistic enough to pursue. But Jesus is saying the opposite. Everything in your hands is intentional. Everything in your hands is usable. Everything in your hands is divine potential. Stewardship looks like discipline, not in a strict or perfectionistic way, but in a purposeful way. It looks like scheduling time to work on your gift instead of waiting for inspiration to strike. It looks like practicing, learning, refining, and developing what God put inside you. It looks like protecting your creativity from spaces that drain you. It looks like managing your time instead of letting everyone else dictate it. It looks like saying yes to your calling even when you're scared. Stewardship also looks like starting small. Jesus never said the servants needed to produce something massive. He just wanted movement. God multiplies motion, not indecision. He blesses the step, not the hesitation. Even your smallest yes can open the door to your greatest breakthrough. And the truth is, you don't become powerful by accident. You become powerful by stewarding the pieces of purpose God gives you, one talent at a time. Fear is the quiet enemy of purpose, not because it's loud, but because it's persuasive. It makes you believe you're not ready, not qualified, not talented enough, not called enough. Fear whispers that starting small is embarrassing, that failure is fatal, that other people are already doing it better than you. And just like the third servant in the parable, fear convinces you to bury what God has given you instead of risking the possibility of falling short. But here's the truth holy girls need to hear. Fear is not a sign that you shouldn't move, it's a sign that you're standing on the edge of growth. The third servant didn't hide her talent because she was lazy. She hid it because she was afraid of disappointing the master, afraid of messing up, afraid of being exposed as not good enough. That fear created paralysis, and paralysis created wasted potential. Jesus includes this detail because he knows how many of us will resonate with that emotional tug of war. How many of us have gifts sitting in journals, dreams sitting in notes apps, skills sitting dormant because we don't want to risk being seen trying? But purpose requires movement, not perfection, movement. It requires the willingness to try, to learn, to grow, to fail forward, to adjust, to take small steps consistently. Fear tells you to wait until you feel confident. God tells you to start, and confidence will meet you on the journey. Fear tells you to look at your weaknesses. God tells you to look at what He placed in your hands. Fear focuses on what could go wrong. God focuses on the harvest that could come from your obedience. Stepping into purpose also requires confronting the stories you tell yourself, the narrative that says, I'm not creative, the voice that says, I don't have enough time, the insecurity that says someone else could do it better. Those thoughts are not humility, they are spiritual sabotage. When God entrusts you with something, He already factored in your imperfections. He already accounted for your learning curve. He already knew your personality, your background, your experiences, your insecurities, and He still said, "Here, this is yours to steward." True courage isn't loud, it's steady. It's the quiet decision to show up again. It's the internal shift from "what if I fail" to "what if God multiplies this." It's recognizing that fear may accompany you, but it will not control you. Every woman you admire started afraid. Every purpose driven life began with a single shaky yes. And here's the part holy girls often forget: God is not evaluating your talent, He's evaluating your willingness. When you step, He strengthens. When you begin, He breathes on it. When you trust Him, He expands your capacity. Fear loses its power the moment you choose obedience over comfort. Your gifts were never meant to be buried, they were meant to move. They were meant to grow. They were meant to shift atmospheres, change lives, break generational patterns, build something meaningful, and bring glory to the God who placed them inside you in the first place. One of the most beautiful parts of this parable is the ending, the moment the master looks at the faithful servants and says, "Well done." There is something so sacred about that affirmation because it is not about results, numbers, perfection, or performance. It's not about how much they produced, but that they participated in what the master entrusted to them. And his reward is deeply symbolic. You were faithful with a little, now I will put you over much. This is Jesus revealing how the kingdom works. Expansion follows stewardship. Increase follows obedience. More flows to those who are faithful with what they already have. This is why some seasons of your life feel like stretching, refining, or even pruning. God is developing your capacity for what's coming. He is teaching you to manage what you have so you can carry the next level. Faithfulness is not glamorous, but it is powerful. It's the quiet discipline that builds a life God can bless. It's the consistency that creates sustainability. It's the unseen investment that prepares you for visibility. When you steward your gifts, God enlarges your influence, your resources, your wisdom, your reach, and your impact. The reward isn't just more responsibility, it's more purpose, more insight, more confidence, more opportunities aligned with your calling, more doors opening because you proved you would actually walk through them. The faithful servants step into a bigger world, not because they were the most gifted, but because they were available. They were willing, they were intentional, they acted, they didn't waste what God gave them, so God entrusted them with even more. This is why God doesn't hand out destiny all at once. He gives you a piece, watches how you steward it, and then expands your borders as you grow. He knows what more would crush you and what more you're ready to carry. He is not withholding from you, He is preparing you. And every act of obedience becomes a brick in the foundation of the future He's building with you. The other powerful piece is the master's joy. Enter into the joy of your master. Jesus wants you to see that using your gifts is not just about productivity, it's about joy. There is a unique, irreplaceable joy that comes from living in alignment with your purpose. A joy that comes from seeing your gifts help someone. A joy that comes from watching your obedience turn into impact. A joy that comes from knowing you didn't bury what God placed inside you. This is the reward of stewardship, not just more, but meaning. Not just responsibility, but fulfillment. Not just outcomes, but partnership with God in the very reason you were created. Every holy girl wants to feel aligned, powerful, purposeful, and anchored. Jesus is showing you exactly how to get there. Steward what's already in your hands. All right, holy girls, let's just sit with this one for a moment because the parable of the talents isn't just a story, it's a mirror. It reflects back to us all the gifts we've minimized, all the dreams we've delayed, all the skills we've downplayed, all the ideas we've buried because fear felt safer than faith. But if this episode did anything, I hope it reminded you that you are not average, you are not empty-handed, and you are not forgotten. God has entrusted you with something meaningful, something intentional, something heaven expects you to develop, and the world is waiting for what's inside you. If this stirred you, challenged you, or woke something up in you, share this episode with another holy girl who needs the reminder that her gifts are not accidental. And make sure you're following the show so you don't miss what's coming next because this season of Holy Girl Talk is all about awakening the parts of you that you've ignored for too long. I want you to leave today knowing this. God is not asking you to be perfect. He's asking you to be willing. He's asking you to invest, to try, to step, to grow, to trust Him enough to move even when you don't feel ready. Your gifts are not too small. Your dreams are not too late. Your purpose is not beyond reach. Faithfulness will take you places fear never could. You do not have to bury what God has placed in your life. You get to build with it. You get to multiply it. You get to partner with Him in becoming the woman He envisioned when He formed you. If you ever want to send a testimony, a prayer request, or an episode suggestion, you can always reach us at holygirltalkpodcast@gmail.com. I love reading your messages and I love praying with you through the seasons you're navigating. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Thank you for caring about your growth, your purpose, and your walk with God. Thank you for being a woman who chooses courage over comfort. And as always, I love you, God loves you, and I'll see you in the next episode.